Good morning. It is Wednesday, July the 24th. This is a special meeting of Commissioners Court of Grimes County, Texas. It's being held this 24th day of July 2019, and we are starting this meeting immediately after with a short break from our previous regular meeting of Grimes County Court. We are at the Grimes County Annex Building, 114 West Buffington Avenue. Our agenda reads, consider and take action. Our agenda reads, call the meeting to order, which has been done, to discuss and review Grimes County FY 2020 preliminary budget. Time's 11:35 when we started. Let the record show that Commissioner Dobianski is absent. Okay. Jesse, when did this printed copies come out? Yesterday? Okay. Commissioners, have you had an opportunity to look at the budget that was submitted to you yesterday?
Well, two were submitted yesterday. One, the others were placed in your box.
Okay. All right. Any requests on what would be the best way to proceed?
Let's talk about revenue. That would
Okay.
be the first. That's what I want to hear. I think they do too.
I got some of the cotton picking documents.
I understand. Searching the cell.
All right, when we talk about revenue numbers, does everybody have the submission from Mary Nichols on the fund balances or funds available for the new building? That's the colorful document. That's the second one. You got it. It's the next one down, Commissioner.
Right here.
Oh, all right. So one thing is that, Mary, what you have said is that we have $9,332,175.32. So 9.3 that we have available. That still maintains our reserves at what level?
6 months.
Okay, so you're still at a 6-month reserve, and we have 9.3 million that we can allocate for the new building.
Now, that includes the 5 million that we budgeted into the 2020 budget. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yes.
didn't want y'all to misthink.
But there's another 5 million out there, so we really have 14, no.
Yeah.
The 9.3 includes that 5 million.
Yes.
All right. And that'll probably be helpful in our discussions this afternoon when we talk about financing or whatever we talk about. All right. The next revenue is I can't even find what the assessor gave it, the tax assessor gave us this morning.
I have 2 copies.
Did you take one of mine?
No, I did not.
No? All right. Okay. He did say in his presentation this morning, what was the number that Shannon gave, 16 million in rolling stock? 18 million. However, I don't know what that revenue generates. Is it 18 million times 0.53?
It's about $92,000.
92,000, okay. Because I know when they found the 100, or the value of that pipeline company increased 100 million. That gave us a 530,000 additional. Okay. So the judge has just walked in. Are you on recess, or
No, we're done.
you're done for the day, so we can just drag this out as long as we want, huh? Wrong answer, Judge.
Yeah, I ain't got anything else to do up there right now.
Okay.
Okay, Judge.
Ma'am?
Now, I don't know if you stopped to talk to him, but you said the value of the pipeline gave us an increase of
$530,000 approximately.
Okay. But the total number we're working with, we're not just talking about that 530. We're talking about a combination of numbers.
Yes, and I don't know what all that combination of numbers is. Jesse, I know they were feeding your data. Ma'am?
1.4.
With the rolling stock included,
Just wanted to see it.
you're on the first page of page 150 on the budget.
Mhm.
The first line is at 310, ad valorem taxes, 001. So we had budgeted $15,979,250.41. That did not include the rolling stock. They didn't receive that until yesterday afternoon. And that number will end up changing to the $16,071,273.
16.
$16,071,273. And that's at a 96% collection rate.
What?
Did you guys receive
What did you
that?
just say? What was that?
16,071,273.
Okay.
Did you guys receive the spreadsheet,
Which one?
this one, in your meeting today? Okay.
I'm seeing a 16,439,250.
I'm not sure what you're looking at.
The document that was in my box.
No, the top
That's
one,
the
She
total.
got a different-
That's the
the
total.
top one needs to
She said
The
change.
first line, that says taxes
15,997
current,
needs to change.
15,997 changes to what?
16,071,273. So that's an increase of $92,022.59.
So the 16,439,250 now comes to what?
Well, $92,022.59 more. $16,531,273.
Thank you. Okay.
The 16,531,273 is what number?
Total,
That's the
it's just the total where I will borrow taxes. It had the 16.4, it'll be 16.5.
All right, so that's the revenue that we're working with. I have met with the auditors since I've met with the court. And Jesse, help me along as we go through, but I'm gonna bounce around, but for the sheriff's office, we did cover the,
Console,
thank you. We did cover the replacement of the console, which was 80,000 versus patch for 60,000, or
No,
26,000.
we,
Go ahead.
so the dispatch console with the radios is $142,320.
Okay,
Is that in
what
sheriff or
placed
jail?
in the jail. That was what was placed. So if you go to, page 20 of 50. It was placed at 142,320, and that includes the console with the radios.
that's the 505.
Yes, sir.
But that is,
Do I?
that is, so on the budget that we were looking at before, it was 160,000.
It was. So it was reduced down to cover just the console with the radios.
As opposed, refresh my memory, as opposed to what?
Well, y'all, they gave you 3 scenarios. A new system without radios was 80 to 86,000. And I'm sorry,
Originally, 118,000 was requested.
a what?
Yes, that's right.
118,000 was requested for the council, I believe. And we were able to use the price negotiations, that brought it down. So the increase for the radio console was $100,000.
Okay.
So,
So the 142 includes the console with the radios plus an additional 2.
well, yeah, the 140,000 includes the 100,000 that changes the radio console.
Okay, okay, so it includes that. Thank you. All right.
In another area in the sheriff's office, we had reduced their fuel costs by 20,000. We put that 20,000 back in. So it's reflected. Is that in the,
451, 414. Page 19, about 3/4 of the way down.
okay? Along with that, did we have, is this, I apologize, Commissioners, because I've met with the folks, the auditors, more than a few times, so I don't remember what discussions were with them and what discussions were with you. But I had them insert the $1,800 certification pay, cert pay on the 3 constables.
That was in the previous.
That was in the previous, and that was in our previous discussion, okay.
But the
Sheriff.
I had
sheriff.
I'm not there yet.
Okay.
But I had also an addition of the sheriff is eligible for that certification pay based on his qualifications, so I have that inserted in this budget. I've made requested 2 salary adjustments in this budget. One for, and this is above and beyond the cost of living, but this is the road and bridge engineer. That was to take the base to what level? Was 108? 108?
Yes.
And then the IT department head was to take that to, what was that, Jesse? 95? Okay.
Well, then,
Go ahead. And the voters, that was taken to 50
yes,
on the salary, or for the new hire position.
yes. And
Okay.
is that to be effective October 1st?
October the,
Are you gonna make it?
Because the money's
August
not
1st.
there
Yeah.
this year to finish out the remaining of this year.
So it would, I don't know how do we handle it, because when we hired the individual for the position, they were already making, I don't know, 51, 52,000. And we said we would hire them in, we gave a range somewhere between the 48 and the 50. But then the committee said, well, we'll bring him in at 50. So I don't know how we adjust from the current rate of the EA pay to the 50, but I know we have it budgeted starting October the 1st for the 50.
I think that it probably has to remain at October 1st if it wasn't in last year's budget.
Well, when we prepared this year's budget, we were unaware that she would be retiring.
Right.
So that's the reason. But that was one of them that was added, and I guess the decision on the date of that can be decided. But you also added the travel and allowance for the JPs.
Okay, on the JPs, they have no travel. They regularly put in for mileage back and forth for,
What department?
Inquest and magistration.
the inquests, they're on call for those. And then the magistration coming to the sheriff's office for that. Looking at the records from what they've been submitting on miles and mileage and so forth, I've recommended, and it is in the budget currently that we're looking at, is that right, Jesse?
Yes.
$2,800 a year for the JP1 and $1,800 a year for the JP2 and the JP3. And the reason for the difference on 1 versus 2 and 3 is the miles traveled from Iola into sheriff's office.
What department is
Page
that?
15 of 50, 436, 438, and 440. So 15, 16, and 17.
So on the sheriff's department, on the 451, 105, that includes certificate pay? Did I hear? I'm sorry.
And
No, the certificate pay is in the 126, the certificate pay line item, that was increased.
Okay.
Are we going down through the changes that you've made, or are we going through the departments individually?
Well, Commissioner, we've gone through the departments a couple of times of reducing and adding and so forth. Since we have met, I've met back with the auditors and I've made some additions to the budget based on monies that we had available. So what I'm wanting to do is to update you folks on the changes I've made since I've proposed since we last met as a court. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Are we gonna come back and discuss?
Oh,
those, or-
yeah, you can ixnay anything that I've suggested or add to anything that I've suggested, because we still have some areas that we need to resolve. Judge McLean's person who was on the budget, we need to make a decision on that, because that adjustment is not, what do we have in the budget, Jesse, for his clerk position at this time? Is it $13.50?
for
Okay,
full-time.
for full-time, and the full-time is effective to start on October 1.
Right,
However, you've got some changes in your department as we speak, so you're going to be trying to hire a court coordinator that's at a level here, and the starting rate on that is $20 an hour, I think.
2050 or 2060.
2060.
It's what
I think it's 2063.
$20.63.
is the starting rate of,
Well, that's what it's currently at.
there's none of them that are at odd numbers. They're
I
all,
think that's probably been based on the
That was that
increases over the
2%
year.
increase probably.
but we didn't put that to the base. We only put,
They're talking about the
We put it to
court
what
coordinator?
they were making at the time.
okay, well, the individual will be making 2063, but still, the starting rate of that position, as we stand today, the bottom of it's $20 an hour, correct?
And then if it's somebody that say has time, then
Yeah, if you can hire somebody at 22, if you can pay, if you can validate their experience or what have you. But, I mean, it's not 2063 automatic starting rate.
Well, you have to, that's the amount of money he has in his budget. So
Understood.
you would have to increase that.
So if he hires anybody above 2063,
Well, that's the rate without the 2.5%, so it would be the 2.5% on top of that. But yes, if he decides to hire someone at a higher rate, say $25 an hour,
Mhm.
he's not gonna have the money in his budget. So
Until-
if he plans on hiring someone at a higher rate, that's something to be discussed, because that's something you would have to add to the budget.
right,
Right, so just because his range is from this to this, doesn't mean he has that he has to have the money, the funds to pay for that.
and I'm with
I guess
you.
I'm misunderstanding.
All I'm saying is that if he hired somebody at the bottom of the rate, it would be $20 an hour,
Yeah,
because that's where it's at.
yes. it-
Okay. All
At
right.
what position, going from a what?
Court coordinator. He's
that's
not
my
talking
court
about
coordinator.
union.
I don't know who knows what, but my current coordinator in the county has severed relationships as of last night. And so,
Oh,
I
so
have-
that's why I was lost.
yeah, that's right, I saw that. So I
But now
now
we
have,
can-
I've got to fill that position. And then we're also talking about the other, the new clerk position. I'm all alone.
Well, now,
But,
I was just lost. I was like,
but to keep us on task and to clarify the discussion, he has asked for a full-time clerk for his office of operation. That is in the schedule we're looking at $13.50 an hour to start October 1 of 2019. The question that he now has to address is, what is he gonna hire a court coordinator in? And again, the minimum on that is $20 per hour. Okay. So, do we still need to have discussion on his area, or are we approving his court coordinator, his clerk to hire in to the budgeted amount if you can find somebody for $13.50? Because that was an agenda item that we said, oh, well, we'll talk about that in the budget workshop.
Well, if I remember right, that was only gonna be an increase of $2,700 from your last year's budget.
I actually calculated it using, and I don't know if.
2803 or something.
I calculated it using 1450 and that netted a
So it'd be-
$2,800.
So it can be even less than that if we do it
Yeah.
$13.50.
Here's your sheet right here, sir.
So, yeah, when I crunched the numbers just for that purposes, I used the number 1450 an hour full time. And it increased my overall budget by $2,800.
So it'd be actually a little less.
27,335, 2735.01.
I like the round.
I understand,
But if it comes in at 13.5, it's.
but Jessie won't allow us to run. She doesn't like that at all. She wants it
You
to
know,
a
I've been
penny.
making Jesse's life
Jesse,
miserable since he was about
that's what
10,
I'll
so.
tell her to do, so.
And then the other issue was, and right now, I'm kind of in a tailspin, but I was talking about trying to get that position filled before October 1st. And that was the other part of that discussion, was what to make it immediately effective.
And that was because you were of the opinion it might be difficult for you to hire a qualified person on a part-time.
Right.
And then we said, well, the full-time would be the budget question, which would be October 1. So we're in agreement that you're approved to hire somebody now for the clerk position?
Yes,
Is that
I would
right,
like to
auditors?
I would like to hire somebody now, full-time, to start getting them rolling, especially if I'm bringing in 2 brand new people.
Sure.
Um,
Are you gonna be robbing other county personnel?
Don't answer
I'm
that.
fully
Don't
happy
answer
with doing that, yes.
Don't answer that.
I have absolutely no problem poaching other people's trained people,
Yeah, I understand. So we,
and I feel no
So we need
remorse
to-
for it whatsoever.
we need to give you the approval of what to do so it can get posted and we can do it properly through our
Correct.
posting and so forth.
Correct.
So the court coordinator, you're looking to hire a replacement now. That money's in the budget so that you need
I
to get with
that done,
Lucy
Get going, yeah.
and get that started so she can post that position. Let's come to conclusion, please, on the court clerk.
Are you trying to take action on this?
Yeah.
We can't take action on it.
No, but what I want to know is, didn't we take action on hiring
The
part-time person?
Already approved the part-time, yeah.
Right.
All right. But in our budget discussions, if we're going to agree as a court that we're going to allow you to have that as a full-time person, that gives you some information that you can work with.
Yes.
Well, right now, he's got funding for a court coordinator and a part-time person. The current submitted budget for 2020 includes funding, if I'm correct, Jesse, for a full-time status
At $13.50.
at $13.50. So
That's my understanding.
those actions have already been taken,
Right.
except for the full-time status in 2020.
No, it's put in the budget at full-time,
Yes.
$13.50 an hour in the budget for 2020.
What you're looking at, it has it
Right,
in
but he
there
has
full-time.
funding to hire people right today. He's got-
Part-time,
Yeah, part-time. And so the end of this fiscal year is 3 months away.
right.
Can you hold out part-time with a court coordinator and part-time until the end of this fiscal year?
I can if I have to, yes. But if you think of it from a hiring perspective, I tell somebody, look, you're working in this department, you can now go part-time for the next 3 months and try to make ends meet, and then in October, you're gonna be full-time again. They're gonna say, you're nuts. See what I'm saying?
Well, that can come as an agenda item on another one if he does find somebody that we can make a decision.
If I was
for the-
hiring
for the
from
previous year.
outside, I mean, there are people that'll say, well, I guess I'll take the job part-time now, and then, knowing it'll be full-time in October, but it will, there's a lot of people that can't afford to do that for 3 months. That might be better qualified. That's the
Well, we're
only
looking
issue.
at 2 months left on this budget.
Yeah. I'd have to get with them to see what's lingering in my budget that I haven't tapped into. I honestly don't know.
That wasn't really the question, Ms. LaFleur. His question is the upcoming budget, the full-time. He has enough in his budget now to hire somebody full-time for the rest of the year, probably. But it's about the upcoming budget.
And I doubt I would have anybody I probably won't have anybody in place. I mean, if I'm moved really quick, I'll be lucky if I get somebody up there in a couple of weeks. No, I doubt anybody's gonna walk in there Monday, unfortunately.
But I think
Well, I
there's a
know-
consensus that it's a full-time position for next year's budget, though. from the commissioners.
I agree. I mean, that's
So,
what we
it's
have in
there
the
right
budget.
now, and we've got that.
It's in
back,
here
so-
now.
It's in here now,
Okay.
for full-time.
Yeah.
It's got the $13.50
We're
and
talking
the
about
load
line
built in.
130?
130, yes.
Okay.
So I'd like to be able to let Judge know what his marching orders are on trying to fulfill his positions.
I think he probably needs to get with the auditors to see if he has enough money in his remaining budget,
I
if
could do
you've got
that.
it already wrote in
Put me on
full-time
the next
here.
agenda to make the position full-time. In the meantime, I will make the position full-time from that meeting to October 1st. In the meantime, I know y'all got a lot of, but if y'all can check, see if there's anywhere I can rob Peter to pay Paul out of my budget. If it's there, it'll make it easy. If it's not, then it makes it more difficult.
Well, the part-time was in the budget for this year.
Yeah, part-time's in there. So it'd be the increased amount.
Well, it hasn't been paid for the first
Yeah,
9
that's what I
months,
think.
so we'll probably be
May
able to
in
get
there.
it.
Very well might be there. Diane mentioned that, and as soon as she said it, it was like it on my head. She's probably right, so.
We haven't put any money in the budget for part-time at all, because we didn't know, we were waiting to see, yes, it was approved that he could hire, but the money's not there. We haven't brought it before board or figured it out, because we were waiting to see when that person would be hired to know how much to put into that line item. So currently, there's no funding there.
So we can set up another meeting and, put it on
Yeah,
the
so
agenda
you
to
set up
actually do what
another
we need to do for
meeting
that.
and you approve, the part-time position was approved, but if you approve the full-time position, then again, we'll be doing the same thing. We'll wait till he finds someone when they hire on, figure the $13.50 for the remaining of the year, and then it
put
would
that
come
in.
back to court as a budget amendment, yes.
If I can get from you, y'all at some point, basically what the 2 months would be at full-time.
Right, that's what
That's
you're
what I need
needing,
to know, is
and
that
that's,
number.
yes,
And
right.
you're okay with the $13.50 an hour?
Do it at $13.50, yeah.
If they start between now and then we'll need to probably recalculate and give them the 2.5% COLA
Why?
starting.
That's what I was gonna
I'm just
ask.
asking.
No.
I'm asking.
No.
If I hire somebody, I'll tell you, you're not getting the 2.5, this is the rate.
Yeah, because the 2.5 is for the incumbents, and
Yeah.
maybe we need to have a pay policy or something, but if you're hired within the 90 days of a COLA, then you're not entitled. Judge, are you kind of okay and clear where we're at?
I'm clear where we are, yeah.
All right,
So this
So-
number we have in here now is for $13.50 or $14.50?
13.15,
$13.50.
and it's full-time, and it starts October 1. And what we had on the agenda today was reconsider and take action to adjust pay rate for county court at law clerk position in accordance with duties and previous salary structure determination, court-related work, and make the position a full-time position effective immediately. So whenever you get your numbers together, what
Just
you're,
put me on the next agenda.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'll have the numbers by then.
all right, Sheree, would you make a note of that, please?
So you want to add that to the 14th?
That's the next one, yeah.
Weeks away.
Ma'am?
That's 3 weeks away.
Yeah, but we'll,
I mean, if you could, what kind of, and I understand it's urgent. So if you get your numbers straight or whatever, I could make a special meeting when, at your availability, if you're not in court.
I can kind of control my own calendar, so that's the point.
I mean, if that's okay with you guys.
if it's urgent, you gotta still hire and you gotta make a decision. If they're working somewhere, they gotta give notice, so.
Yeah, the thing is, it kind of makes it hard for me to start hiring until I know
Well-
relatively certain.
We'll plan on the 14th unless he finds a critical situation where we need to meet before then.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're dismissed.
May I be excused?
Yes, you may.
Judge, since we're on positions, this list that you gave us for 2019, have these things been added into this budget? So all of the positions that were previously approved, they're now in this budget?
They've been in the budget, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what about the list of things? Have any of these been added in?
Which list are you looking at? This one?
Yes.
Yes, the title is requests that were added in the preliminary budget. So all of those have been in the budget for the past few times since June 27th. And then there have been more since
So the
then.
entire list is now in here,
It's been in there, yes, since June 27th.
but I didn't see the sheriff on here for
He wasn't on the
certificate
list.
pay, so
That's
that's,
because this was created June 27th.
okay, so,
And so there have been additional items that have been added since this.
okay, have we discussed all of them?
No,
No.
he was going down the list when we kind of got sidetracked.
Okay. Well, I won't interrupt you.
Do you want me to continue that list?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the second drainage crew was added in.
Four,
Total cost of.
490,
2490, yes ma'am.
yeah, I'm trying to find where you're at, 490.
Page 25, or 26, nope, 27.
That's just personnel cost, right?
No,
No.
it's other costs that were added in.
Like 92,000 in equipment or 90,000 in equipment.
Can you give me the line number 148, is that what we're looking at?
Okay, so 148 personnel was added in there, yes. Personnel along with, it was for 5 employees. Harry, correct me if I'm wrong or stop me when I'm wrong.
That's correct.
It was for 5 employees, but then you also have the insurance and all of that. We increased line item 410, which is repairs and maintenance. We increased it by $25,000 from the previous budget, from what was in there earlier. We increased 414 from 233,000 to 253, which is $20,000. Let's see, increase 473 from 40,000 to 42,000. And then we increased 505 from 435,000 to 525,000.
Okay, can we go back to 473, was that line there previously, because it's,
Yes, ma'am, operating supplies, it shows it should show 42,000.
okay, but you said you increased it?
$2,000, yes, from 40,000 to 42,000.
So it wouldn't show in the line that's in the red and green differences?
Well, so it's included in the red and green, let's see.
It just put it back to the
Well, it
We
was
just
original.
42,
put it
put it back to the
So
original.
when I'm
We
telling you we increased, it's an increase from the July 17th version
Mm-hmm,
that y'all originally had
mm-hmm.
to this new version that you
Okay.
have in front of you. Or revised.
So the equipment line item 505, you said that in,
We had originally what was budgeted in 505 was 435,000.
Mm-hmm.
And now what's budgeted is 525,000. It is a decrease
Mhm.
from what's budgeted this year to that, so it depends on how you're looking at it.
does that include the equipment for the second drainage crew?
Yes.
Yep.
90,000 is what we calculated for the equipment for the second drainage crew.
Okay.
Are we still moving fund balances there?
We're actually moving more fund balance. It's like $1.4 million that they are using from fund balance. Find my, 1.1, I'm sorry. It's 1.1, yeah, $1,165,666.57.
And that was, part of that was your capital lease.
That was gonna use, they are wanting to use, to pay for machinery and equipment, all machinery and equipment out of fund balance. They are wanting to pay for all of the capital lease, the new road pavement projects, just the increase, so the $100,000. The resurface paved roads, just the increase of $198,585. And then the purchase of the building, yes, and then the purchase, the $150,000 out of fund balance. And that gives you that $1.1 million number. So by
but-
using fund balance for those particular lines,
Mhm.
it helps offset the cost of the drainage crew.
Okay. So we're talking about the differences on the paved road, we're talking about the difference?
Yes,
And
the amount that
resurface
we
difference.
increased. So we went from, on new road pavement projects, we went from 250,000 to 350,000.
Okay,
That's a $100,000 increase. I think currently they said they were trying to do 14 miles and going up to 20 miles, is that correct, Terry?
That's right.
And so they were planning on just using, if they were able to get to that 20 miles, then that additional would just be used from fund balance.
okay. And then that way in the future, if we don't have it, then it was just paved roads and special projects. Basically,
It's not one of those perpetual things.
yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Depends on what you're doing.
Because just as a reminder, when we talk about, so all of your machinery is coming out of fund balance. But in the future, it needs to come out of,
This is this year only.
okay. How many more years do we have on the lease? One?
This budget you're currently discussing will be the second payment, and we'll have one more after that.
Okay. That we're already tied into.
Okay, going back to the sheriff's office, one of the other additions that I put in was the paying of the cell phones for the deputies.
Is
Correct,
that
Jesse?
433?
Too wide, I'm sorry.
Cell phones for the deputies,
Yes, yes, that was
and that's in the SO department. 'Cause we
That's
had
line-
discussion on that.
433?
Line 433.
And that was all the cell phones, not just the, I think the 20,
It was like 29, something like that.
That includes the 29?
Yes. We're still on one farm.
Sir?
So we're still talking about one farm.
Well,
We're talking about the changes he did.
I was going with my memory of the things that I've added back in. And the reason I went back and added is because when we finally got our numbers, then I won't say we had an excess, but we then had, we weren't in the negative, so I was able to go back and take a look at what had been requested that we had taken out or what hadn't allowed in, like the extra drainage crew, the certificate pay. I felt it was important from an employment standpoint. I'm not sorry he's here to say it, I mean, to hear it, but I thought it was important that we make sure we compensated our road and bridge engineer so he didn't look around or want to retire. I feel like our IT director has earned his salt many times over with his new projects and software and savings and things of that sort. And he had a requested amount, but it's what I proposed is less than what he's requested. But I felt it was substantiated by his review and his records.
So, I mean, are we talking about raises now? Or what are we talking about?
I'm just telling you, Commissioner, what I did as I was visiting back with them. So these are things that I have proposed and it's been put back into the budget. And that's for us to agree on or disagree on or meet somewhere in the middle
When are we having that discussion?
today.
Like right now, or are we just going?
Well, I'm telling, first I want to go through the list so you know what
Okay.
you agree with or don't agree with or you're content with, so.
Okay.
So the cell phones for the sheriff's office, that was in the previous one. We did not add that. Y'all had kept it in there from the get-go, the 33,000.
For the full 29?
Yes, the 33,000.
Okay, because I thought at first we had only put in the,
14.
yes.
He said that he could go down and reduce that line item if y'all were trying to find money, but it was never taken out, I don't believe. Or if it was taken out and put back in the same day, Judge, that we
Okay.
were in our meeting.
All right.
And so we also took two other lines, if I can't find my list, but I remember $1,000 and then $3,000.
So what I had,
I think it was office
we
supplies.
had office supplies, we left that alone. It stayed at the 3775.
Mm-hmm.
The 451, 410, repairs and maintenance, we brought that down from 9764 to 6764. Let's see. Reduce the fuel, he's already said, that he left it at the 195. The machinery and equipment, that was reduced.
That was reduced.
It was reduced by 15 grand.
So it's back in there, right?
No, it was reduced. Because what originally was in there was 242,000, and it was reduced down to $227,070.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. The dispatch console, that line item was reduced down, but it was reduced to the 142,320. So we already discussed repairs and maintenance. That was it for the SO. Now for the jail, it was the machinery and equipment that was reduced by 18 grand. 454, 505. It was 160, 320. Oh, that's one we just talked about. Okay, yeah.
And those were all the changes
To the
since we
sheriff's
met the
and
last time.
Yes, the sheriff's and the jail, and I believe, do you want to?
Just be a good time to address a couple issues that I noticed in the new.
Go ahead.
And I noticed, I was going through the revised copy.
You gonna adjust them up or down?
You can leave them wherever you were, but I'll just
All
let
right.
you know the consequences of them.
All right.
On the 451 side, it looks like, and these are items that we didn't discuss last week. 451, 424, medical employee side. I noticed today it was reduced down to $750. That's particularly a line item.
It was reduced down to 250.
Yeah, reduced down to $250, so it's $750 total. That's the line item that we use, so when we do hire employees, we have to send them to get drug testing. We gotta send them to psychological evaluations and physical evaluations and stuff. And I know just alone, the psychological testing is $200. So if you leave it at $250, if we hire one employee, we're gonna blow that out. I know I know the history really doesn't show it, is because a lot of times we do hire within the jail who we already done it testing in their side, and that's why their employee medical is a little higher. But also, in just incident that we just had in the jail, it also relate onto the patrol side is we had a jailer get into an altercation and his glasses were broke and stuff like that, and that's where some of those costs come from also.
Okay.
So,
All right, so saying that is $1,000 gonna take care of you?
yes, it is typically, hopefully, we only hire like one outside employee every now and then, so
Okay.
hopefully it'll take care of it.
So the 250 is too low, but you think the 1,000's adequate?
Yes,
So you're requesting us to add the 750 back?
correct.
Okay. That's not a yes from me, that's just a
I understand.
clarifying what you're saying.
We noted that none of these are gonna be
Okay,
agreed on yet.
next.
On the 454,
In the jail?
Item, account 126, the certificate pay for the deputies was changed to 6,000 from 7,200. We looked at that. There's actually, that is what we're at $5,400 in that line item, and there's a possibility of an officer switching back that will go back into the jail, and it will be covered back under that line item, which will increase that amount to $1,800. So we recommend that will go back to $7,200. Any questions on that one? I think the 127 certificate, I think we're fine with that reduction there.
Okay.
My next account would be 310, postage.
So your changes on that 0126, right?
Yes.
454-126.
Yeah, to bring it back to the
Okay.
17.
And then postage line number is,
310.
okay?
This is our postage rate. We actually, got reduced, it looks like $1,100. This is where obviously internal mail, business mail comes out of there on the jail side. But this also is where we're required by law to do all legal mail for the inmates and indigent inmates, and then they're required 3 letters a week that we have to send out if they don't have the funds to do it and stuff like that. So based on population wise, that number can change. So I'm just concerned we may be a little low there, but we're running out of money due to that.
So what would the recommended number be?
I would recommend leaving it back the same. You have
At the 2,600?
It's worked the last couple of years there with our average population.
Okay.
And the last one would be 430. It's the inmate transport.
Mhm.
Typically, we always kind of barter trading and stuff. It just brought to my attention today that we're kind of easing away into that practice because some companies have,
We have 100% into that practice.
okay, they're 100% into it just because the companies we were dealing with have told us that some inmates were housing didn't have any medical issues and stuff like that, and we received twice that they've been where we actually had to, when we got them that night, and then we had to transport them. So obviously the cost as far outweighed for the hospital treatment has outweighed the program and them just being untruthful with us about it. So typical, well, we just had one brought in from Colorado that cost us $1,050. So I think if we had to do 2 or 3 of them, we'll clearly easily go over 1,500. So we would ask that the 2,000 be put back in to kind of cover any costs that we had to bring out of states back.
So what I hear you saying, I thought I heard you say the program was being done away with?
What are you saying? We used to get inmates brought to us for free. The companies have to, drivers on the road 24/7, they need places to lay over so the drivers can sleep, pick their inmates back up, because that's all they do is transports. For years, we've held for 3 companies. And it got to the point they realized that, especially with all the new laws, any medical, mental health, all the stuff we have to do to get them in, they were lying to us. No, they don't have those problems, so they could drop them off, the drivers, just go to sleep. We didn't even give us the medicines. We ended up a couple times taking an epileptic inmate, one with heart problems, to the hospital. It got to the point I was afraid we were gonna have a death in custody because of what they were trying to dump on us for a night or 2 at a time. So we stopped the programs, the liability got way too big. That was not, we talked about a few months ago that we hadn't used in 2 years because we never needed it. But because of recent events, we're now gonna need to use the money in that line item. it's gonna be cheaper in the long run to spend the 2,000 to pay to have them brought to us than to exchange housing for the transports, because the liability is huge when they lie to us. You don't say get paid on us overnight.
So if you need to bring somebody in from Colorado, an inmate in from
It's
Colorado,
$1,050. California is $2,100.
Okay,
New York
okay.
would be $3,000.
okay, but, so the 1,050, we're paying to a private transport company?
Correct.
All right. And you're
And a lot of
thinking,
times that's cheaper than us going and getting them.
okay,
Time
They
we,
assume all liability.
time we have to do all the hotel lodging and food and stuff, and gas, and fuel, and all.
right.
That's all I have.
So if we back up to your postage line item, I noticed it was $2,600 originally for last year. And up to this June the 28th, there was only $500 expended.
Historically, they kind of balanced, they'll burn one department, one the other. We're trying to keep it separate this year.
Okay.
And then it's just based on, some of it based on the indigent level of our population. Like I said, these are things for y'all to consider. So we don't go over.
And these are not current numbers
These are what?
from
Is
the,
that today's,
no ma'am, this is when you gave it to us back up
June 28th?
for April 1st, 19.
No,
Those-
this is as of June 28th.
This is the June?
Do y'all have your
Okay.
new one, your updated one?
Yeah, but he's
I'm
looking
at
back over
720
there.
I'm looking at the 723 one.
You,
Well, but
we
she's,
need a 7-7.
she's wondering about the actual experience.
You're looking at 7-7.
If you have your packet this
Budget.
morning,
Yeah.
where you signed, if you have that, then you can
Look at that.
look and see the experience.
Chief, before you leave, are you still on the, you're not through with the postage yet, though, Commissioner, so where are we at there?
No, I mean, I was just making an observation,
Yeah.
but he explained that
He-
you've been taking it out of the other
Well,
side
generally-
as well.
Generally, I believe that's what.
There's a few things that were changed from the way it was done previously. Some of our bills were paid from areas that we're looking at moving what we believe they should be, just more accurately reflect.
Oh, okay, because y'all made an administrative change where you felt like some of the charges weren't being coded correctly for your
A few
records.
times we found that's happened, so that's why a few of the numbers look a little bit, what
Okay.
we're telling you doesn't match what it actually is. I think once we meet with Jesse, we're gonna move a few things where they should be, you'll see some of the numbers change, in some areas will go down, some will come up.
And they've had a personnel change to try to maybe rectify some of that. So you still think then the 2,600 is a good number for your postage?
Our postage, Judge, as the chief said, it's been there for several years. This year, we've actually a few times been below 40 inmates. 2 years ago, there was a time where we were pushing 100. It's one of those things we can't predict, but I do know we don't want to run a negative balance if I've got 80 people sending $3 a week. The law makes us pay for it on top of their attorney-client privilege letters we have to pay for.
Okay.
And if it's in postage, we don't use it, obviously, it comes back, we don't move it around. It's just, we hate to be sitting there, and then our account jumps up during Renaissance to 70 or 80, and we're bankrupt by December.
Okay. So then the transport chief, what is it, your recommendation on that? Because it was 3,500, we cut it 2,000
I
to
would leave it at
15,
$35.
you wanted it to 35. So you're asking for +2 there. Okay. Any others? That's plenty. Any other questions for the chief at this time?
One more thing to consider before you cut our transport budget, Judge.
We didn't cut it, we just asked.
Y'all are considering it, if the money's not there, and this has happened, we can't pick them up, and we don't need our felons leaving the state, and we can't go get them. Something to think about.
Well, if we can't go get them, is that a bad thing?
It is, because if they commit a crime and leave, that means we're not gonna be picking them up. We've canceled warrants in the past, it was years ago, but it has happened.
And not all of them that we pick up out of state. I mean, we do regulate it, you know, we do we do have warrants on several people, but we're not gonna chase somebody for a misdemeanor
Right.
all the way,
Sure.
you know, in Wyoming, so.
Sure.
So it's, you know, when we get an out-of-state request on the warrants that we actually have that's out, that we have extended outside of Texas, we will generally get with the DA's office and we figure, you know, it's just one that we need to get, you know, and we'll go from there. But usually, once we put them in that out-of-state, we've already had that discussion, and that's why we stuck them outside of Texas.
Okay.
Because we could control the limit, you know, kind of the regions, so,
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
Back at Jesse. Jesse, have I overlooked any other additions that I have added since? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
There were several departments that were granted an increase. They came to you guys or came before Commissioners Court and asked for their pay grade to be changed, which meant their salary was gonna change. Those increases, if they exceeded the 2.5%, then they didn't get the 2.5 on top of their increase. Does that make any sense at all?
It does to me,
So-
but,
So their increase was larger than the 2.5%. So if they were brought up from 18 to 20, originally what was in the budget is the 20, they would get 2.5 on the 20, the new rate that was effective October 1st. That was backed out on this new one. So there were, I believe, 2 departments that applied to. Your, Commissioner Walker, your operating supplies was increased to 2,000 and 403,308.
That had originally been backed out. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, so it was put back in there. EMC, the 10,408,605 special projects line, that was increased by 9,000 for the fence.
Which one?
The 10,408,605, the EMC.
On page
top of page 2.
Okay.
7.
Okay.
And what was the line?
605.
That's for the fence that goes around the tower.
Tower project, I believe. The 408, 405 rentals and contracts, that was also increased. He presented that in court. One page, I don't think I have that one page, but it was increased by 150. IT, which, I'm sorry, you don't have any questions, I'm just writing down the list. Okay. IT, which is 10,423, 507.
Huh?
10,423, 507.
You don't have to tell me 10 yet. So I think that's what's throwing me. 407?
423,
423.
507. IT department, which is computer hardware line, that was reduced by 45,000. And that was due to the jail needing the cameras up for the San Jerome to begin compliance. They have that money to do the project this year. So they were anticipating on not being able to do the project this year, but I believe now they've kind of.
They've been motivated to get it done this year.
Right, and so that was backed out of next year's.
So it's been reduced?
Yes, ma'am, by 45,000.
We're gonna spend it, but we're gonna spend it out of this year's budget, therefore we don't need to budget it for next year. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'm just trying to follow. It's
No,
too
I-
many, it's too many things to look at. I didn't understand the numbers that you have in there, because you got proposed budget 98,675, and you say the original was 92, but it was reduced, so I was trying to follow that, what you were saying. See, so this number was reduced. I'm on the wrong number.
Who's that department?
The 98,
That's 423, so
Mhm.
computer hardware. Yes, so if this is the new budget, and
Mm-hmm, that's the
this
new
is the
one.
old budget.
I
so-
hadn't gotten it.
Okay, so it's back here.
No, that's the last one.
No,
This is-
it's this page.
Okay.
$423.
Mhm.
Computer hardware. It was 143,000 and now it's 98,000. That'll be easier to follow. I didn't want to give you more paper, but I'm printing it just in case. It'll be a little bit easier. You had asked for that.
Okay.
Okay, Jesse?
Okay,
Next.
so we were at the 423,
Yep.
right underneath is 424. On the list, it says 424, 449. Crime Stoppers, that was increased at 3,500.
Those increased by
By 1,000.
Well, it was increased to 3,500, yes, I'm sorry. 424, 475, okay, so those were, that was increased 5,000.
What's the line item number?
The next one on the list,
The one you just called out.
the Crime Stoppers, 449.
Okay, I got Crime Stoppers.
It-
475, is that what you just said?
RSVP.
That went up 125 from what it was.
I- Voters postage was increased to 3,000.
That's Department 427.
The list gives you the department numbers too, so that y'all have in front of you.
And the main reason for the increase on that postage, as we'd previously discussed, was for the disadvantaged, the elderly, send out the notifications. Okay.
The DA fuel went up, yes. And then everything else y'all discussed.
Now, the one adjustment that I did not put in that all of us got notice on, I talked about it, but I didn't do anything with it because I felt it was part of our discussion, was on the HR director. She had requested an increase on hers. We'd all gotten a letter or notice or whatever. And I didn't make any adjustment on that. I felt
You
like,
didn't make one on mine
I'm sorry, well, it gave you 2.5%. I'm sorry. Oh, on your commissioners?
Yes.
Well, that's open for discussion.
Okay.
Well, do you want to have those discussions now?
Okay. We've gone through all of my updates and add-ons, so you know what I've done. And Jesse and Mary helped clarify for me, because when I originally made cuts working off of conservative ad valorem numbers, utilizing last year's numbers. And then when we got better numbers from the tax office, then I was able to go back and say, okay, based on some of the cuts we've made, we can put this back, this back, this back, or based on our discussions in the workshops. And that's what I had done with Jesse and with Mary, saying, okay, but when it was all said and done, we still had about 400,000, I think, or some number, 400 or 500,000 that we saw as revenue coming in, but was not allocated. And I wasn't in the mood to allocate all of that just because we had it, because I'm looking forward on the idea of if we have a dedicated line item for building note. So,
558,000 is the number, and that's on page 42 of 50.
on page 42 of 50.
Yes. And that number would increase by the 91,000 additional from the certified numbers from that rolling stock.
Yeah. So, the fact is, we have more money than we can spend, and if we find areas that we absolutely need to spend it to provide a return to our taxpayers, then we need to. But if we don't need to spend it, then it's my recommendation that we keep in mind, okay, if we increase this much, because we got a 3.5% cap coming in 2021, and I will be honest with you, I don't know what that means.
That is the,
Well,
so, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, I know what it means, that it's gonna limit the amount coming in, but I don't know how it's gonna figure out, because it's going to apply to current taxed properties, but it's going to exclude new rooftops and new businesses, and I'm not sure how the sales tax is gonna fit. So when it's all said and done, Commissioners, I don't know how it's going to affect us. That's why I asked Mark this morning, what is new money and what is valuation money? Because at some point that valuation is going to be affected by the cap. The new money will still have that if indeed we do get it. So the bench is yours.
I'm kind of hungry, Judge. I mean, I'm just
Oh, you're
saying,
angry.
we'll go as long as you want to go, but the
Okay.
long, I mean, it's up to you.
Is there a consensus to adjourn for lunch, recess for lunch?
Yes.
Is this a good time to recess?
Back together.
Chad, what time is Ben gonna be home?
I told him we may start at 1, but it could be till 2. So I told him, I think it was on the calendar for 2. And
Can we recess when, Corey, can we recess when he gets here to take care of his business?
But,
Likely.
yeah.
I
Likely?
think the agenda said after the workshop, but
Did.
I'm sure it's okay.
Okay. If not, we can throw you under the bus?
Sure.
Okay. Then is an hour enough time?
Yeah, I mean, it is for me. Unless these folks want to
Just wanna
keep
get
going,
lunch.
we can keep rolling on. I mean, that's-
No.
I just want to adjourn.
We gotta
All right,
get
I don't want
things
people-
straight.
I'd rather people be not hangry.
There you go.
Okay. We're going to recess until, what, the 2 o'clock? Hour and 10? We'll recess till 2 o'clock. Where are you going?
When I leave.
We are back from,
Remember that.
this is a budget workshop for Commissioners Court. Today is Wednesday, July the 24th. We are back from a recess. We are continuing our discussion on budget. Okay. Ms. Murphy, we've gone through all of the additions that were made during my discussion with the auditor's office. Is that correct? Okay. So Commissioners, I'm open to any ideas or discussions that I've already maybe introduced. If there's a disagreement with something, or I'll bring up one. You know, we've talked about a 2.5% cost of living adjustment for all of our employees. And when I say all of our employees, the stipulation, I don't think we have it written, but our practice is if they've been hired in the last 90 days, then the cost of living doesn't really apply to them. The other thing that I made an arbitrary decision, and it can be changed or stuck with it. I don't feel terribly strongly one way or the other. And that is, I have asked the auditor's office in their calculations, someone who's received a salary adjustment or a change in grade level, which would initiate a salary adjustment. My initial instruction was, do not include the 2.5% in that. And I don't really have a real strong feeling one way or the other, Jesse.
That doesn't apply to all of them. There was one that, their increase, they would have received more with the 2.5% versus the salary adjustment.
Okay, there was one person we said, take them up to whatever that would be, right? Okay. And I think that was, took them to $20.63, or is that the wrong one?
That's the wrong one.
Okay. So anyway, I made a request of the auditors on my own behalf, not my own behalf, on my own thought process, and you folks haven't had an opportunity to make comment on that, so that'd be a good time to do that.
Well, Judge, I'm of the opinion that they need to receive, if it's a cost of living adjustment, they need to receive that regardless of the change of job status. They received a change in job status, generally speaking, because of their performance, maybe?
Or they've been to a moved to more responsible position, i.e. that would tie to their performance,
Yes.
I would think.
So I agree with you in that if you're a new hire, you wouldn't be eligible for a cost of living, but just because you've got more duties and that dictated elevation in pay, that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't qualify for a cost of living adjustment.
Fair. Commissioner Walker, any thoughts on that?
I agree with him, specifically because I just think, if we're changing grades and it has nothing to do with them, it has to do with their responsibilities, it has to do with the position, I don't know why we would back out their increase if it's a cost of living adjustment. Also, I did notice that when we made the changes in elections, I thought I saw 2% in there. What number is election?
Said 427.
427. Is that just what is that? I mean, I see what it is, but.
Page 12 of 15. What are you talking about? Which one?
Line 106.
The way.
Verse 427.
Yes.
106. I don't see, I was incorrect, but even still, that's a significant increase to me over what the other person was making prior.
That was, the board, that was what the board, I think, had, is that correct, Judge?
But that's a recommendation. It's not written in stone.
Well, it was a commitment the board made to the applicant.
So let me just ask this question, does the board we have to abide by what the board says even if we wouldn't have had the money?
Well, no, you wouldn't, but let me just say this, does the 48,436, does that have the 2.5% in it?
No,
Okay,
that's
so-
what's budgeted this year. It's a 3% increase.
Okay, but, all right, but if that employee was staying, they were getting a 48,436, And if we added 2.5% to that, that would have gone to 49,647. So effectively, what we're talking about is
Like $410.
$310,
Is that true?
$353. So we're talking about $353 from difference in what we would have been paying to what we committed to.
Right, and with the load, it would have been 410.
Okay. So I think well, it's a court's decision, but I will say that I think we can live up to our commitment of what we told someone they were gonna go to.
Or what the board told somebody.
Well, okay, I'm a part of that board, so we told them.
Well, I just wanted to clarify, it wasn't we.
Well, okay.
But yes, I agree with Commissioner Cox, that I don't think it's right that we back out their 2% cost of living adjustment.
Well, okay. But the correct terminology, we're not backing it out, we just hadn't added it to.
I was reading what you wrote, it say back out.
Did I say back out?
I said it, I was just, because it once was in there, and so I had removed it out, so that's on my paper.
Commissioner Mallett, your thoughts?
I also agree that, you know, if there is a cost of living adjustment, it should be, you know, across, you know,
Okay.
it would be anything that would.
Jesse, can
somebody
you,
even to
do
change
you
the
do it,
position.
can you do a quick little count of how many people that really affects? Do you-
Just two.
Ma'am?
It's just two.
Just two.
Just two people?
But,
That I'm aware of, can I see that?
Also-
One of them is
Building maintenance and then
And
your
sh-
office.
in Cherie.
Mhm. That's the only two that I saw that.
So now my staff hates me, but they
I
love
was
the
trying to
commissioners.
save you.
Well, I appreciate
Yeah, we're
it.
helping you.
yeah.
The one, yeah.
but I also want to make sure,
Let the record show I don't play favorites.
but I also want to make sure, you know, the COLA is a real COLA, not a, you know, if we can give merit increases that give the department heads options to give the raises based on that, or if we're, you know, based on the market or based on true cost of living numbers, if that is a true COLA that we need to actually raise, because one of the purposes of having the salary structure merit raises was to eliminate
Across the board.
across the board raises. Now, if this is a true COLA, no problem with it, but, you know, I'd like to see maybe, you know, if it's a 2.5% or 2% or whatever merit raise, put in each department, let them distribute it how they wish.
I'm not following.
Make it a merit raise versus across the board.
Give each elected official or department head 2.5% of their payroll to distribute.
Why do we
Back
have
to the
to
merit
do that?
raises. Well, that's what I'm saying, if this is a true cost of living adjustment, because what we originally set the structure is not to give across the board raises. Now, if this is a true cost of living adjustment, because we did give one last year, is that percentage still there as well? Then, yeah, but if, you know, if this is just a way to give across the board raises, I thought we were trying to get away from that and actually give true merit raises, give to the departments to distribute how they wish. You may have somebody that they want to give 5%, somebody they want to give 1%, somebody they want to give
Nothing.
nothing. So that was our system. We're trying to get to the true merit raises versus the true code.
Did we get to the true merit though?
We did give some merit raises. Was it 2 years ago?
Yes. When Judge Lamont was.
Ben's last year, yes.
And last
And
year we
then you're
gave a
given
COLA.
a few merit raises this year, too.
Mhm.
And I want a real voice for an elected official who has voiced this to me. Commissioners Court can give merit raises to people under them, but other elected officials that have requested merit increases for their employees don't have the same luxury.
Say that again, Ms.
Yeah.
Mary.
Commissioners Court
Mhm.
has given some merit increases
Mhm.
to people who
Okay, I got you.
respond to y'all. But elected officials have also asked for merit raises for some of their employees. They have to wait on you to give them the money to give merit increases. Whereas for people that report to you, y'all make the decision on their merit raises. And so the concern is, okay, people under the commissioner's court are gonna get merit raises, but the rest of the county's not, is basically what the concern
I
is.
could hear that concern, but keep in mind, this was a preliminary budget that was issued by the judge in the auditor's office.
I realize that.
Up to now, we just
I know.
finding out about the changes, you know. Prior to this, we were looking to cut, not increase.
Mhm.
So, I understand what you're saying, though.
But I just wanted to bring that up, just, you know, to voice an opinion based on, you know, if that's, I mean, if it's a true cost of living adjustment, you know, across the board, I don't have a problem with that. Or if it's a 1% cost of living and we give them 1.5% merit.
Let me address you, because I hear what you're saying loud and clear. We did do the 2% last year, where the overall index went up about 3.5%. So even though we made a bit of a move for all kind of employees, we were still about 1.5% behind. And I do believe with what's gone on with the economy this year, when it's all said and done, it's probably going to be between 2 to 3% again this year. So we're still going to be behind on it. But in my mind, 2% last year, 2.5% this year, that's a 4.5% increase in the last 2 years. I think we'd be in a very good situation next year to only address merit increases, not cost of living, unless the economy just really starts to inflate. And I don't see it doing that with elections coming around and everything else, so.
And Chad, that was the first cost of living adjustment that had been done since 2013. So.
It was
something-
definitely due, but that's what I was saying, you know,
Yeah.
we did one, does it, you know, are we still playing catch up or, you know, I just wanted to raise the question anyway.
So 2013 was the last time that we had seen, some of us have seen any increase, including Commissioner's Court. And they've all been cost of living. They have not been adjustments based on salary at all. They've all been just cost of living adjustments, whereas other departments, and I guess I'm going over to my request, I'm just gonna speak on it and get through it. There haven't been raises given to this court at all in the last, I guess, since 2017. So that's 6 years. I mean, if that was cost of living. So it wasn't
Well, there
any
was a-
kind of
there
salary
was a-
adjustment.
Well, there was I guess, a survey or a kind of an investigation into what.
Yeah, but I
what
presented one
everyone-
last year and this year, and then that was never ever.
What the averages were. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and it depends which counties you pull, which. you
Right,
know,
and
I
we
mean,
said
it's
that
however
then.
you want to do it then, you know, but some of the averages were a lot less. from
But
what
some
I
of the
understand.
averages were a lot more.
Yeah, so. like I
So it
said,
depended on what you pulled.
Yeah.
We discussed
Yeah.
that then, but nevertheless, we still made that move, right?
Sure.
Okay, so that's all, I'm
Yeah.
just putting it out there. You know, whether it's approved or not, I would be remiss if I didn't speak to what I thought my worth was as an employee. That's like anybody else, you know, that, you know, you have department head and elected officials. They speak to their merit, just like she spoke to. I understood what she said, where she was going with that a while ago, in that we're taking the, I guess, time to look at people who we think deserve, they would like to have that opportunity too. You know, I don't know what you want to do with that, but I thought that I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up, that I have asked 2 years in a row and have not received, and haven't even been considered and even discussed, so.
And I've seen other counties that if they have commissioners that have come in at different areas, different times. I've seen them give their senior commissioner more, and then the next one a little less, and then the next one a little less, and the next one a little less. But it's all up to our court as to how you want to handle the salary.
And it could be an elected official, salary scale as well for all the elected officials that would go on. I mean, that would be something we could address in all this today discussion, or if it's a future discussion. Because, I think length of service is part of the thing that could be beneficial. And I've seen other counties where they do that. It's based on your tenure.
Well, right now, all of our
And
commissioners,
that could distort some of the averages based on which county they're from, based on.
Right,
if they've got
it was
that
so
kind of
many
scale, if
factors
they're-
that
yeah.
could have went into
Yeah,
that.
that's why it's so hard to really pull a number.
well, right now, all of our commissioners are on this, get the same monthly amount, which is $50,107.47 plus their travel allowance, which is $45,0968, net $54,617. So all four commissioners are of that same level. Then we have the county clerk, tax collector, treasurer, they're all paid the same. They're at $52,994. And then the JPs are all of the same, although with what I've requested the auditors to put in $1,800 on JP2, JP3, and $2,800 on JP4 for a travel allowance. Didn't do anything with their base, ma'am? I'm sorry, JP1. And I'm in the JP4 capacity, but I already have a travel allowance, so I take my travel out of that, so. But that was my thought on adjusting the JPs with that is to put them a little bit more in line with other elected officials. I didn't see where it was necessary on the constables, because they're getting the cert pay of $1,800 if we approve that, so that brings them up. But I don't see the need to bring them up to the same level as county-wide elected officials, because they already have, they have an automobile that they're assigned. Not that that's their personal vehicle, but it's still a vehicle that gets them to and from work and do their work, so. So if there's a suggestion or a recommendation that we change the commissioners' salaries or make some kind of modification, then we can continue that discussion. But when I went through it with the auditors, based on the spreadsheet that had been prepared, that's kind of my thought process and my recommendation.
Well, like I said, my whole idea is, when we work and, we do our best at doing a good job, that at some point it's rewarded. I mean,
Sure.
I'm grateful. Don't let me not say that. I'm not ungrateful for what we do get, but I also, like I said, would be remiss if I didn't ask.
Okay.
I think it warrants us looking at. In fact, the sheriff made that plea a couple of years ago, that so that we wouldn't have to keep coming in here with grievances, which was really ugly. You would hate that we have to come to grievances just to get an increase.
And we have the foundation set up in the event we had to do that, but I'd prefer that not have to happen.
Right.
What was your recommendation, or what was your request, Commissioner?
My request was, let me find it, is that I had a whole big sheet of, it was something like 2,000.
Are you 403?
It was bringing it up closer to the other elected officials. So whatever that difference is, I'm trying to find. I got too many papers now.
What is your department number?
403.
request was to bring it up to 52,994.44.
That would be the same as the countywide elected officials?
Yes.
No, not
No,
county,
no.
well, countywide.
Yeah, treasurer, district clerk, county clerk.
Yes, it was the same. It was like 52,994, which was the
Right.
same thing that,
Okay. And not that I'm right, but the reason I didn't include the commissioners in that is because they're not countywide, even though they handle countywide business, but because they also had the travel of 4,500 in theirs, that you put that to it, it puts them above what the other countywide elected officials receive.
well, I think that we are countywide, because when I became commissioner, I didn't just become precinct 3 and 4 commissioner, I became a Grimes County commissioner. So my concerns are countywide.
Okay.
I don't try to overstate my bounds, but if you talk to any of the people I talk to on the phone, when they call with their complaints, I'll refer them to whoever, and if you don't get them, give me a call back. I'm still your Grimes County Commissioner, if you have an issue. So,
I understand.
but out of respect to, the precincts that you serve, then I do that. But I still consider myself Grimes County Commissioner. And like I said, I've been here since 2013 and have not seen any type of increase besides cost of living. Like I don't know about how y'all feel. Y'all have never asked, and you may feel that you don't need it, but I did ask for myself. I did want to make that plain and clear. I'm grateful for what I have, but I'm gonna ask.
I mean, are you asking input for input?
No, I was just saying, making my thoughts known.
Because the last time any commissioner's base salary was adjusted in 2013, it was brought up to 46,785, and then in 14, it's been at the consistent 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and it was taken to 49,124, and then with the cost of living last year, it went to 50,107.
But keep in mind, that's cost of living. That meant everything else, goods and services, all went up. So
I understand.
Well, like we were talking about before, based on numbers, whichever one you do, comparative analysis, I think we're fairly compensated based on what numbers I've seen. Like I said, you can pull different ones and.
And we're above some, we're below
Yeah,
some.
it kind of depends, it's kind of hard to truly compare, with numbers like, 254 counties in the state, so it's really hard to
We
pull
stated
out.
that
But,
back.
we try to state it based on population and based on, budget.
Mhm.
And I guess, I don't know if we pulled every county that was within a certain range and, based on averages, it was
we
all.
didn't.
Yeah.
We
Well,
just
between that and
cherry
county-
picked.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm certainly not in any position to ask for a salary increase. I mean, I'm just not comfortable doing that. I can understand you've been here for 13 years.
13.
Isn't that what you just said?
Started in 2013.
Oh, you started in 2000,
Yes.
okay.
It just seems like
For your
13
length of
years.
time.
No.
But I can understand that, but I hadn't been here long enough to, a cost of living is one thing, a raise is another.
And it, like I said, she brought that point up. What, I guess where I was going with that is, like you said, the people under the commissioner's court receive increases. And I also asked for an increase and did not receive, but, you know, I don't do their job that they do. I'm just saying, that's where that conversation came from.
Okay.
But most of the people under the commissioner's court have specialized skills, not
Well,
saying that.
that's what I said, but I'm
Others
still
don't.
specialized. I'm special.
Yes, you are.
We have to answer, as a court, we have to answer county-wide. It doesn't matter if, Mr. Harry, we know he does an excellent job, fine job. I'm not saying anything against you, Mr. Harry. I'm just saying, when it comes down to it, who do they call? They call us. And they look to us to get the resolution, to get it resolved. And I've you know, sought to improve whatever skill I have over the years. Every educational thing that I could take, that I felt would benefit the citizens of Grimes County, that's what I tried to do. I didn't sit still or sit on my laurels and try to do nothing else because I was elected. I tried to become the best commissioner that I could become.
I would ask the auditors to generate a number, not on the request of everybody, but at least on my request. If you brought the commissioners to the same level as the county-wide salary, which is the treasurer, district clerk, county clerk, what is the cost of that? To take it to that, and then the adjustment in the load and so forth. And if you give me that information. Let's set that aside for just a minute, if we may. Hear your request.
Yes,
ma'am.
sir. I did have another one.
Okay.
Because I'm looking at, from that list, we had some requests from the DA's office that when we went back and we looked at it, and we said they were asking for an investigator or a district attorney, what is it called?
Assistant district attorney, right?
Assistant district attorney.
Right.
And we didn't make any type of, we haven't discussed that since this change. Only thing we did was put the fuel back in.
We'll put the fuel back in. I'll share my thoughts on it. I am hesitant to increase that department at this time until we get the new building done and we have the room and the courts to take care of the load that the DA and the investigators might generate. I also have a concern that John Wren, sitting in here right now, his salary is paid on a grant, and there's no guarantee that grant's going to continue. So one of the concerns that I have is we end up with 3 ADAs, and then the obvious request is we're going to have an investigator to help with that load, to give them what they need. I get that. They need the vehicle. Ultimately, they don't really have the space in their office right now. I'm sure you accommodate if we gave you the people. But I don't see us moving more cases through the courts until we get this new facility up, just because of the scheduling nightmare that we have. And about the same timeline, and I don't know when their grant renews or doesn't renew, but I have a real concern that if that grant doesn't renew, then we're not paying for one more ADA, we're paying for 2 more ADA with the one that's already being paid for through the budget. So we're paying for one now, the grant's paying for one now. We're talking about hiring an investigator for the third one, okay? I just think there are too many unknowns.
Are we talking about hiring an investigator because of the additional workload that the DA may be under now? Or are we talking about, it sounded as if you were saying they would have they need an additional investigator if they hire another DA.
I think it's more, I don't know what I'm saying. I think it's more appropriate
I think that's
to,
what they said.
I believe it's more appropriate to wait until they're in the new building, get them another ADA, get them another investigator, because then we're gonna have the courtroom space, I believe, to work those cases through the court system. I don't see us working any, they might have material prepared or evidence or whatever their process is, but I don't see us moving through the court system any quicker, even if we bring another ADA and investigator in. If I need to be educated, John, educate me.
I would love to speak up on that. Can I walk over here?
Sure.
So to speak to the, I'll speak about the one at a time. With regard to the investigator, we asked for an investigator position and we asked for an ADA position. And y'all asked me and you asked Ms. Bender when she was here, she's not here today because she's down at the office dealing with a murder case that we're starting in 10 days. We all just got back from New Orleans last night, wanted to find a witness on that. We said that our priority would be the ADA. So let me start with the investigator. I understand your concern with the grant. I'm the grant person. To answer or to speak to what you said, the grant will end next September. We will start the renewal process around March and likely will not know even when y'all, at the point that y'all are deciding the budget for next year, we very likely will not know. They are historically do not tell us until the very last minute, typically around September. In fact, the first time it was renewed, they didn't renew it until after we were into October and Jessica was having a panic attack because we were funding me with no money. I understand that concern, and honestly, if y'all wanted to hold the investigator position until next year when you knew that my position was renewed for 2 more years, I totally understand that, and I don't think that that's unreasonable, and our office would accept that fine. With regard to the ADA position, if we had another assistant district attorney, it would absolutely today help our situation with being able to move cases, because as I explained in our explanation, we've already had multiple instances in the last year where we have had to actually ask a judge to cancel a trial because we flat did not have the staff to facilitate the need that was there. The last time it happened was back in April. Judge Kramer had a case first week of the month, the following second and third were Judge McKegg's, and Ms. Bender had to email Judge Kramer and say there is absolutely no way. I've got both of my attorneys tied up on this murder case and both of my investigators tied up on this murder case. There's absolutely no way. I don't have anybody else to give you. If we'd had an attorney, we could have had that trial. We're going to be back in the exact same situation in November when we try the co-defendant in that. So to say that we could not better move cases today if we had the attorney, I don't believe is a fair statement at all. I think we can, because it's not just about the courtroom space. It is about lack of personnel and having physical people to do the job that we need to do. And the other thing about...
Well, before you leave that, with all due respect to your knowledge, we're talking about 2 cases, one in April and one coming up here. If we're only talking about, I mean, if we've only affected 2 cases having to be postponed, is it worth it? Is it necessary for us as a county to have another ADA just because we got 2 cases out of the way?
And I just use those for examples. I could give you others if you would like.
Okay.
I could, almost every month, we've got 3 trial settings. A lot of those trial settings are major cases that take more than 1 prosecutor. So when the felonies get stacked on top of each other, and then we just got Mr. Armbruster, he's now taking care of the misdemeanors. You tie up both of the attorneys that we have on 1 major felony, there's still the other felony week for the other district court, and there's nobody left to deal with it. And the other problem that Ms. Bender explained, which is why I so often fill in for her at stuff like this, is where she is also sorely needing the assistance, is she is having to spend the lion's share of her time in the courtroom all the time, and she is not being left any time at all to do other administrative functions, asset forfeiture, bond forfeiture, grand jury. She is getting to the point where the only way she can do grand jury is to stay up here till midnight because she has no time during the day to address it. And I mean, I can just go on and on and on with examples of where she is not able to she's not able to come up here and sit because she's having to handle a case, and she doesn't have another lawyer that can do it for her. And it exponentially grows, and I talked to Mary last week. Todd was standing up here talking about that dynamic that they've got going on with the officers having to spend so much time in the office because the videos have gone from 1 to 2 to 10 for an individual case. He's absolutely right with what he's telling y'all. He's absolutely 100% correct. He's not exaggerating that at all. But what y'all have to remember is, just like what they're dealing with, when that case arrives at the DA's office is the attorney that's prosecuting that case has now gone from 1 video to 15 to watch, because they're expected when they walk in that courtroom to know all of that. So when their work is exponentially growing and the volume of evidence that they're turning in is exponentially growing, the time on each case is exponentially growing for the attorneys, and that's where the rub is, and that's why we're asking for help. And as we stated in the paperwork that we provided when we submitted the budget, our office has not asked for an attorney in 18 years, and it has not asked for an investigator in 20. 1999 was the last time a actual investigator was added. And again, I am very much of the understanding and am totally willing to accept what the judge is saying, that next year might be a better time to address the investigator. But we are desperately in need of some help in the way of a lawyer at the very least, so that we can do a better job serving victims and serving the public for this county.
Thank you.
Do you rest your case? For now? Okay. So what's the price tag on an ADA?
Was it 90 plus load?
What do we hire David for?
75.
But that's not what she requested for the new ADA.
We have to. Our office asked for the new position to be set at 90 because Andrew wants to hire somebody that can walk in the door capable of handling felonies. Mr. Armbruster was just hired. He has experience, but not a lion's share of experience prosecuting, and he's going to be our misdemeanor prosecutor. He does not have a lot of experience dealing with felonies.
Okay, thank you, John.
What's your department number?
430.
Okay.
Because we did add the overtime back in your office, I believe, did we not, Jesse?
Yes, we left it the same.
Are you addressing that as well?
The overtime?
Yes. You're already pretty much over your grant budget. I know.
Bring that up.
Well, I mean, it's during the budget time, so.
Well, I can speak to, I can say something else. I got a phone call from Jessica the other day. Presently, the overtime is left as it is at the moment, which is 15.3 or 15 something. Jesse let me know within the last couple of days while we were in New Orleans hunting for the witness that the grant overtime that is allowed for me is spent, which means now any overtime for me will start coming out of the 430 budget. Our office, again, busy, staying busy. And what it really comes down to, ladies and gentlemen, is the volume of trials. I've been in the county for 21 years. Philip has been around for a long time dealing with the trial stuff. We used to, in a typical year, actually physically try 3 or 4 cases. And we're getting to where we're trying cases on nearly a monthly basis. We're already at 5 or 6 for this year, and we're just barely halfway through the year. And Judge McKeag and Judge Kramer both have the dockets stacked 2 and 3 deep for the rest of the year. We're starting a murder. We just resolved an aggravated robbery, and we're starting a murder Monday week, which is what we just went out of town to find one of the principal witnesses in that. We have a continuous aggravated sexual assault that's scheduled the last 2 weeks. In September, we're retrying Colton doing the co-defendant in the murder in October and November. We have the Bender murder, the Kelsey Fowler murder, the Romika King murder, all still pending, and then a plethora of sexual assault cases. And it's during the trials that Cody and I are running up so much overtime. And the reason it's up is because the trials are up. Because the expectation is that we work, I mean, we're court responsive. The way I explained it to Jessica the other day, we are court responsive the way the sheriff's office is public responsive. They can't tell the public, I can't come deal with your burglary because I'm out of time. We can't tell the judges, I'm sorry, we can't have that witness there because we fit 40 hours this week. I explained to Jessica, when Cody and I arrived back from New Orleans last night, we're both already at 30-something hours for this pay period, and it's Wednesday, and neither one of us can take off the rest of the week. We've got a murder trial that we're trying to get ready. And that's what creates the problem, is that there's two people, and the work can't just be put off until we start Saturday and have 40 hours. Does that explain it a little bit?
Well, I mean, it's just, you're gonna have to come to court for this year, and so it needs to be addressed instead of.
So they're already at 15, I mean, 15?
No, his grant is separate, so he's allowed, $42.50 a year. So that's $8,500 for the 2 years. And he's pretty much to that point, with the exception of a few $100. But I just told him afterward, or at a certain point, it needs to come out of the 430. Now, y'all have an updated budget analysis. I do not have that. I'm not sure what their, do you have an updated?
Our overtime right now is right at 50%, but that's with me not coming out of it at all.
That's just what's paying, coming out of it.
So-
Or 50% of your budget is just paying.
Yeah. So I would honestly, I would defer as far as what you recommend your overtime. I mean,
Well,
if you think it needs to be raised.
You don't get to
it
breathe
raised,
like
then
that.
we should just leave it alone and
So
address
you
it
don't get to
50%
breathe
next year.
like that.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
So it just, I mean, it doesn't, you don't have to do anything, just be made aware of the situation. So when it does come before you, or if you choose to leave it at the same, and they have to come before you, you kind of have to have that.
Did you make a note on another calculation? Would you put together the full cost of an ADA at 90,000?
Yes.
Commissioner Cox, were you gonna say something? You looked like you wanted to say something. Whether you want to or not, is there something you need to say?
It seems as though that the criminal justice system, being a former criminal justice practitioner in this county, is out of control. I've heard request after request after request of money, expensive money, on the criminal justice problems we have in this county. And at some point, somebody is going to have to take a look at, do we continue to invest and throw money at the same problem and expect it to go away, or do we look at and invest money on crime reduction strategies? Because just throwing money at the problem is not working. It's just expanding.
Are you bringing up a whole new
I was gonna
topic?
say, with that being said, what would that be? Educating the public, don't mess with Texas.
I don't know.
Well, we increased Crime Stoppers by 1,000. What more?
I mean, at the end of the day, every request that, I don't say every, but listen to all the requests that we get to increase the elements of the criminal justice system. And we're building a building worth millions of dollars, started
To accommodate that.
to accommodate that.
And keep in mind, growth is coming. This is all
I think
part
that's
of,
part of the growth that
of
we
growth,
experience as
you
well,
know?
but
They're
that
coming to
sure is-
Grimes County.
Well,
The criminals come too.
okay, I don't dispute that, but at the end of the day, we gotta figure out how we're gonna mitigate those issues. And I don't think throwing money at it is gonna be the answer.
But I think what I heard him talk about is stuff that's already occurred.
I agree with you. He just named off, I don't know, half a dozen murders and sexual assaults in Grimes County.
Okay, you asked Jesse to,
Yeah, put together a number for us so we can review that.
I don't think it speaks well for our county. Just what I'm saying.
Waller County, their complaint down there is they only got a population of 50,000 and got a crime rate of 85,000. Go figure.
Commissioner, Judge. Vanessa's been waiting patiently
Oh.
all day on us.
Hi,
Can we talk about my department for just a minute?
sure.
I just didn't want to interrupt. Okay, so we earlier discussed me moving one of my clerks to a chief deputy.
Mhm.
And so y'all wanted to talk about that.
Okay.
Do we have numbers on what that looks like?
I had put it in my budget request. I don't know if they had included it or not.
You have the budget, the preliminary budget, and no, it's not included because it was not approved when everybody else brought theirs.
But the person is in there at a grade 5.
They are currently at a grade 5, yes.
So we're not adding a person, we're just,
No, we're not adding a person.
we're just moving them from a 5 to a 7.
And it would be, the minimum wage for that salary grade is $17 an hour. She's currently making $16.
So she go to 17 times, or whatever the 2.5% is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did the math.
Well, I guess
It's about an
there's
extra $2,000.
I guess there's a consensus amongst the court that, yes, the 2.5 needs to be paid too. Well, it's only 2 people, as you reminded me, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Well, yes, the other
Okay.
one is HR and it's already in there at the 2.5. The HR department, you had her clerk, y'all changed the clerk's grade.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay.
Judge,
Ma'am,
are we still recording?
says it is here.
This just passed away.
Who did pass away? Oh, your machine? Okay. Well, I'm still red here.
As in dead?
Let the record show I'm still turned on.
He wouldn't charge you.
So she is a clerk 5, just to be clear?
She is.
She is a clerk 5.
She's the
Yes.
office manager, I believe, right?
Okay.
Yes.
I think we just need to make the adjustment, be done with it.
I agree.
Well, I figured you would.
Well, you can't do anything today, it has to be on the agenda.
Well, that's why it was on the agenda today, but y'all didn't take action again. Second time I brought it for y'all toward, and no
Well,
action was taken.
We can put it in the preliminary budget.
So,
Yeah.
we could put it in the budget, because it's not gonna be till next year, but do we still have to do an,
Yeah.
take
still
action?
gotta- still
Because
gotta
it's a
approve
grade
it.
change, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And
Well, that's why I was kinda hoping that would have gotten done today, so we could go ahead and put it in the budget.
So is she no longer an office manager? Because.
Well, that's just her she's actually doing Tina's job who was the chief deputy. She's doing that already. She's just not being classified as that or being paid for
Well,
that.
I think part of the discussion was when we were discussing those changes last year with Mr. Paskey, you were in agreement to where.
Well, what he did was he just restructured the office, but he didn't want to, when I came in, he didn't want to put me in as a chief deputy clerk. He was gonna
You were at a
leave
grade
that-
5 and left you at a grade 5.
He did, and so, but that was just temporary until I took office, and then he
Right.
was gonna leave it up to me to fill that position and put whoever I wanted to in that chief deputy spot.
Now, let me ask you something, because she's going to chief deputy, you're not gonna be asking for another grade 5, are you?
Oh, no,
No.
no.
So you're gonna be basically one person short in that office?
No,
it's
nothing will
basically
change.
reverting back to the way that it was.
Yeah, nothing will
It shouldn't have
change.
been.
And actually, I went back and found the commissioner's court minutes when David came, and all it addresses was the job descriptions. And it just says, restructure personnel classifications, for purposes of job
That's what they were.
descriptions, moving grade 2 positions to a grade 3, moving grade 3 positions to a grade 4, and grade 4 positions to a grade 5, and it didn't, the minutes don't address the chief deputy at all.
But when you did it, Tina was making more money, and so when it was done, y'all
Right.
took some of that money.
And he distributed,
increased
Yes.
and that was his
others, and
decision
now-
as, because he was the head of his
Right.
department, so I really didn't have a lot to say in that. So,
So what would that increase be like? If it's a
So
dollar?
it would be, just the salary would be 2,096, and then you add the load on top of that.
and, just for clarification, I did cut my budget by 26,000, so it's not gonna be a big impact, I don't think, in my department.
Well, it warranted a discussion, just to be clear,
Yes, ma'am.
because we were under the impression that when he restructured, you were on board with it, and that money
Right.
went
That was,
various places, you
right,
know.
and to me, that was just temporary until I took office. That was just how he wanted to do it, just so he could bring me in and not pay me. I'm gonna be very honest, so that he didn't have to pay me Tina's salary. I'm pretty sure that's the only reason he did that.
And
Well, he
this-
didn't want to charge, he didn't want to cause a rift in his office either.
And that's true, yes. So just to satisfy everybody, that's how he did it.
You have to have a chief deputy?
I'm supposed to have a chief deputy, and that office has always had a chief deputy. The chief deputy is pretty much the person that's in charge of that office when I'm not there. But all of my clerks are deputized to sign for me
That's
when
what,
I'm
I've
not
seen the
there.
signatures, that's why I'm
Yes,
asking
ma'am.
that question.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
Various
But
signatures.
she would be like number 2 in charge if I was not there.
Number 2?
Well, she's
As
not
far
one.
as,
Oh, she's one.
But that's
Yeah,
the
You
She
said
one.
if
Chief
I'm not
deputy.
there, so that's why I was like,
right.
She's the
And-
number
and
2
she
person.
She
Okay.
handles a lot of the things that none of the other clerks do. Like banking stuff.
I have no problem with putting it in the preliminary budget. Anybody have a problem with that? So Jesse, if you'll make that additional note, please.
And do we need to just go back, get back on the agenda for next time? Or do we?
Before October 1, I guess.
Well, wouldn't it,
Well, it needs to be reclassified.
See, I think and that's why
Yeah,
they never
have
took
to
action the last
reclassify.
time, because y'all just figured it was a budget decision.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a grade change, so,
well, it's because it affected the budget too,
right.
and because of what happened prior.
Right.
And that was some of the reason why we discussed that, because we've seen that happen too many times.
No, I understand.
When
There
a
was lot of
position becomes
people-
vacant and there's extra money, then the extra money goes out, and then the next year,
Which is-
I need an extra person, so
Yeah, yeah.
That's
but I'm
what we
not
were trying to
asking for an
avoid a
extra
lot of
person,
times,
right.
you know.
At least not this time, so.
okay.
Vanessa, do you know what day that was brought to court?
This was September 5th of 2018. And I've got a copy of it here if you want it.
this will be the grade change. The grade change will become effective when?
October 1st.
October 1st.
Judge, I got one more issue.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned HR wasn't included in the raises that were given out, other than the 2.5%. And
Yes, sir.
I believe that the HR director needs to be included, just like the IT director and the road and bridge director. She is over the management personnel issues of 185 employees dealing with their medical and dental. She handles all the workers' comp claims, unemployment, the equal opportunity commission claims. She in-processes new employees, out-process employees that are leaving. And utilized properly, she could be one of the most valuable assets that we have in this county. And I believe that she spends the time and has the knowledge and to be considered for an increase in her salary.
Okay. What, number is that, Jesse?
405.
405.
Page 5 of this,
Ma'am?
page 5.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so
I
what
think
was,
that's everybody under us that's, you know, we're gonna have that issue. That issue's
what's that?
there.
Oh, the people under us?
Yes. 405.
Yes, ma'am.
Page 5. So she was, so is the 45, 540 the current, and then it goes to 46, 678? Okay,
At the 2.5%.
at the 2.5%. Do you have a recommendation, Commissioner, of what you think it ought to go to?
She requested 48,436.
Was it?
And what is that a difference of 48, 4, 36? Is that a percentage? What is that?
She's probably got it on there, probably 4%.
It's a difference of 28.95.
A 6%.
28.96, ma'am?
A 6%.
6%, okay.
A little bit over 6%.
What are the other people's increases? Do they equal 6%?
Well, it's like 6.3. Who's the two other ones?
Mhm.
Who is, Road and Bridge? Which one? IT, which one?
Now, would that be 6% plus 2% cost of living?
No, so for.
No, this would just be an
4.7,
actual,
'cause it's like
actual
6.3
raise
or something.
versus the 2.5. This would be an additional to the 2.5, that's what it would be, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. So it'd be the 6% plus the additional.
No. This is talking about just if we do what we're doing, just set a number, set it 48, which would be a 6% versus the, so an additional 4.5% on the 2.5. Or 3.5% from the 2. Do some math. Do some math.
He's the engineer. He should be able to do this in his head.
No, I can calculate.
Are we doing those kind of increases?
Sorry?
Are we doing those kind of
So,
increases budget?
About 9.4, 9.5 for IT.
9.4.
And who, we said Road and Bridge.
Oh, yeah, but yes.
Well, I think too with the IT, that was part of our negotiations of bringing him in, was to
Right.
evaluate it and.
Over the
and
years
try to
that we
get,
would bring
you know,
him
close to
up.
where he really wanted to be.
It's not what he asked for, what I suggested, but
It's like 7.4.
on Harry. Okay. And Harry didn't ask for anything, it's just that I don't want to lose him.
I know where you're going with those.
Seeing where we've had 3 road and bridge engineer administrators since I've been here, so.
So what was the HR that you're going to?
Do you want to go what was for asking, or just go to a flat 4,800? I mean, 48,000? You said it was 48, 436 or something?
436.
436.
I do 47,999.9. That comes out to an even number.
48 sounds so much better.
Yeah, you just have to, I'll be off on my budget.
Like car
for that.
sales, you know.
Mm.
Can you make it 48,000.11? I'd give you a penny a month.
I just think that's significant increase.
To 48?
48.6.
Well, part of it might be significant increase, but look at where we were at.
What do you mean, look at what?
Look at where your salary currently is.
Yeah, but what? Well, whose salary? Where her salary currently is?
Mhm.
That's why I said that's a significant increase.
And she got,
I don't disagree
she
with
got the
that.
cost of living raise last year. The year before, the 3 previous years, she got merit raises.
Of how much?
You can go for them.
That's okay. You don't have to, you can't.
Well, I got this other sheet with 5-year averages.
It really doesn't matter what happened in the past 3 years per se, in this particular issue. I mean, it's the value that
Well, I
the book
think
puts
it
on
does.
human resources. I mean, do you think you're gonna be able to go out and get a skilled person?
You're not gonna replace her.
I think we could.
You think?
Yeah. I think we could.
No.
Well, you can hire somebody, but you won't replace them.
I'm just saying, yeah, I mean, we all have opinions here. I'm
Sure.
just speaking mine.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I got you.
So are you gonna put it at 47,99999?
48,016 cents. What about that?
Perfect.
Okay.
And
You
I'm
think
back
that-
to the point she made. We're doing merit increases. Yet the elected officials. So I think that at some point.
I've asked her to get the numbers together.
Oh,
what
you
it would-
did?
To get the commissioners up to 52, whatever, 999 or whatever.
But that's the commissioners, that's not the elected officials in their departments like merits. That's what she was speaking to earlier. Isn't that right, Ms. Mary? That's what you were talking about?
Yes, an elected official came to me and they said that they didn't feel it was quite fair. The commissioners court can give merit raises to the people that report to them, the department heads that report to y'all. But yet, their merit increase requests that have been made for their employees are not even being considered. And they didn't think it was fair that the commissioners court, because you're over people, you
Sure.
can choose to
But-
give them merit raises.
But here's what I would say. I would ask those elected officials to come to the podium in these workshops and say, hey, I think my people are underpaid, and that has not been happening. To those who have, we've considered it. And at least from my perspective, what I'm looking at is those that I don't think are achieving market value. These others, they didn't catch my eye, or it wasn't brought to my attention or the rest of the court's attention that they're not at market value. I understand what they might be saying to you, but I don't see them here making that pitch to us that, okay, and then they also might not know we have the 2.5% in the budget. I
Was
don't
this
think that's
not
a secret.
requests from elected officials that we received?
Okay, but these are elected officials asking for their increases.
Merits.
These are elected officials asking for increases for them.
But we had merits they had merit requests in their budget requests.
Let me see what.
In this big book,
Okay?
and I think she broke it out. I don't know if I have, but that's in the book. I mean, you had departments
Well,
asking.
you can see this has, this has the assistants, here is the department name, Commissioner Precinct 3, Human Resource Director, HR assistant, administrative assistant.
We took care of that.
I know. County clerk, deputies, and assistants. She asked for increases for them. The auditor, which that y'all don't have, the tax assessor, collector. She asked for an increase, but she also asked for an increase for her deputies and her part-time. Treasurer, her deputies, IT, PC technician, that was given in addition of the 2.5% for him. Health resource manager, voters deputy, they requested an increase for the deputy. DA legal secretary and administrative assistants. JP1 asked for an increase, and he also asked for an increase for his deputies. JP2 asked for a request for his deputies. SO, various salary line items. Jail, various salary line items. District clerk, and then her deputies. County attorney, administrative assistant, he said any increase appreciated. Environmental deputies and assistants, solid waste crews, crime victims coordinator, road and bridge superintendent, road and bridge various salary line items, courthouse security, and school resource officer.
Judge, following up on what Commissioner Mallett said, it may be the time to, I mean, we need to figure out what all these cost of living increases come up to, and
The cost of that is about $200,000.
split that money up amongst the departments, and
Or if you're doing the 2.5%, you know, if there's a COLA in there somewhere, that we'll call it 1.5% and give the departments another percent that they can do with what they want to.
I just-
We are a court, and I get one vote. I have made a recommendation, and I've made the recommendation a very long time ago. Let's put a 2.5% cost of living in to try to get us back to a fair compensation for our employees. And we've had one, two, I don't know how many workshops. I've had, I don't know how many meetings with the auditors. And I'm okay to do what you're recommending, or to total up the number and do these do individual reviews, but let's come to a consensus of what we're gonna do, what's the best thing. Otherwise, I'm wasting their time, my time, and your time.
No, I don't think you're wasting our time. This
I
is
feel like
all
you
a
are.
process. I mean, that's why they said it for such a time, till we have to the end of September, and it's open.
Our proposed is
Yes.
by the end of this week.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, when you look at it, I'm just trying to remind you that they did ask, and the way that it does seem like it's going, it's just the people under Commissioner's Court that looks like they're getting merit raises, and everybody else, we didn't even hear what they had to say. But they
I don't know,
asked. They asked.
Well, that's, okay.
They did ask.
That's submitted, it's, I don't hear them beating the drum for their people.
Well, the numbers just changed, what, today?
What do you mean the numbers?
certified numbers changed for today, yes. Well, the increase is this is the first time you're seeing the increase. Yes. No, are you talking about for the
I mean, I
revenue?
just didn't want to be remiss tonight.
No, I appreciate
Trying
it, I'm
to be
just.
fair in our dealings.
well, I think we're being pretty fair. but-
Well, you may feel that way. I don't feel that way.
Okay.
Well, and I thought the 2.5% up front was fair, because we didn't wait till the end of the budget. I mean,
You're right.
I put that up
You
front and I
spoke.
said, we paid our employees last year with leftovers. I don't want to send the message to our employees, the only way they increase is through leftovers. Let's put the 2.5% in the beginning and then work our reductions to try to make that work.
But it's when we start doing the merit portion.
Well, okay,
So,
but,
I'm just saying.
but part of, okay.
I'm just-
I don't deny, I guess I'm using a different terminology. I'm doing a salary adjustment in my head, but the reason I'm advocating salary adjustments in some of the areas is because they are doing a good job. IT, road and bridge. On the other requests or the other comments that I had gotten, why in the world are elected officials paid differently when they all do the same thing? Well, one, they don't all do the same thing. When I started looking at it, I said, okay, county-wide elected officials, they're making a little bit more. I can understand that. That wasn't my decision, that's Ben's decision, Judge Lamont's decision when he made it, and then the rest of them were a little bit under that. So I said, what justifies that? Okay, county-wide elected officials can make this amount, example, commissioners can make this amount, but with their travel allowance, they're making more than the county-wide elected officials. Okay, that makes sense to me. And then I look at the JPs and I go, okay, they're at a lower level. What can we do to help them out? Let's get them mileage because they're doing this extra mileage and make that a part of their, base, not their base pay, but have that and then a travel stipend. So we put that in there. And then I'm looking at the constables. Okay, what can we do for them? Well, they're below countywide elected officials, and they're making less, but they get a car. Gets them to and from work. That's got to be worth something. Okay, but to kind of heal the wound, let's give them certificate pay. They've qualified for that, so that's $1,800 that we can give to each of them, add value to their job and what they do, and kind of fill that gap. I will admit that on the road and bridge, that on the IT, because both of those individuals are doing a very good job, in my opinion, I hate to say it on video, but I believe that they're under market value. I don't want to lose them. And like you said, you've been through 3 of them in your tenure. You've been through 3 or 4 through your tenure. So what, and if that's a merit increase, then that's a merit increase. But it's, I don't know. That was just my rationale and logic of going through how I came to the conclusion that I came to. And then we had a couple of other adjustments where we made maintenance a department head, we made my admin court coordinator, but I wasn't even considering the 2.5% on that because it's already a promotion, an elevated, so it's a salary adjustment. So,
we go back to the salary scale and salary structure, and it's my understanding that one of the motivating factors of this salary structure, salary scale, was to address some of the issues that had happened previously in other administrations and other elected officials whereby merit raises were implemented and elected officials were awarded an amount of money to distribute amongst their employees for merit raises. And later on, it was found out that the one employee got all of the money that was distributed and the others didn't, or it was, and there was no justification as to why it was done that way. That's my understanding. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I have been told that on more than one occasion. If we want to get back into that, I'm a merit guy. But let's do a true evaluation on the employees, and they have to live with what they do. I mean, if they, I can go either way on this deal, but at the end of the day, if we're going back to a merit, giving money to the elected officials and department heads, or more so the elected officials to do the merit raises, then they got to live with what they do. And some employees may not get anything.
Well, it'd be justified based on those evaluations
Based
that they
on the
go through.
evaluations, yeah.
Yeah, but everything has to be justified.
but even on the evaluations, and those evaluations are, one, they're very subjective. 2, I'll take Road and Bridge, where all of their employees were evaluated, but you have one foreman who evaluates and gave a few 4s, and then you have another foreman who evaluates, gives a bunch of 5s, and the one that gave 4s didn't give any 5s. But from the verbiage and the description, these were much better evaluations, the 4s were, than these given the 5. And it's, part of it's human nature. Some individuals, when it comes to managing people, don't have the intestinal fortitude to tell the truth.
So I don't know what the right answer is. I can tell you,
Because we need to do performance appraisals. I think it's important that we do. But there's a lot of subjectivity in there, and I guess the reason for the cost of living is to put some fair and balanced pay to all of our employees. And Commissioner, you know, you made a suggestion, well, maybe we give them a 1.5 and then you have a 1% that you give to them and let them disperse that out. But in the past, the county has had a history, and y'all know better than I. That's my buddy or my friend. They get all the money, and to heck with the rest of the people. And that's not the way it's supposed to be done.
Well, let me say
And
this.
that's what I thought we'd try to put the guidelines in there to keep that from happening based on evaluations. So,
I just did not want that to go unaddressed. We were kind of skipping around. You've always said from the beginning you thought that cost of living did not keep up for everybody. Cost of living is adjusted according to inflation. But when we hired IT and Road and Bridge, we knew that is not really market value. But at the same time, we started adding to almost everybody up on the Commissioner's Court. And I just wanted to make us aware of what we did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so whatever y'all decide to do, we are a group that, I'm just one vote like you say. But I didn't want to just skip over it and not say anything. They now know this morning, most of them were here, elected officials. If they wanted to come back, then maybe they should have. I was just didn't want to not speak to what she was saying.
And nobody's speaking for you, so you had to speak on your behalf, and I understand that.
Right. Now, I didn't get to get an evaluation or merit.
Well, you get one
We don't
every 4
do
years.
that.
You get one every 4 years.
There you go. So well, if that's the case, when my 4-year came in 16, it didn't do anything then.
Yeah, it gave you a job.
Yeah, it gave me a job, which I've already said I'm grateful for.
I know.
But nevertheless, if you have not, because you asked not, okay?
Sure.
So-
Well, I'm a firm believer, if you don't ask, you don't get.
There you go.
I'm a firm believer in that.
So Jesse, you have a few marching orders, and you say we have to have the proposed budget out by when? I asked you earlier about the dates.
I think it was this Friday, the 26th.
Is there anything that has to be published with that, or? Okay.
According to the calendar, the county judge and the county auditor prepare the proposed budget, and the county clerk will file it on the website. The same day, you have to submit it to the examiner before the 10th day. So they need to submit it on the 26th for the July 31st publication.
Right.
And the same day, you'll send notice of the public hearing. Oh, sorry. August 1st.
Second, they also have to publish what they propose the elected official salary.
That's what it's for.
Yeah.
That, and then the public hearing on the proposed budget. Yes, all on Friday. Today's the 23rd, so 24th, sorry, that makes sense. So Friday is the day.
Is it 26, right?
Yeah.
is it mandated by law that we do that this Friday?
There are, in order to adopt the budget, we have certain guidelines that we have to, so it has to be, the statute pretty much says that you have to file it on the 10th day, let's see, before the 10th day, before the date of the meeting to adopt the increase. I mean, there's different codes in there where you have to if you don't follow this calendar, it's gonna get you off and you might not be able to adopt it by the 26th, because there's certain timeframes in there that you're allowed to do, so.
And even if the budget, even if the rate stays the same, it's considered an increase if the valuations.
Right, because we got more money.
Yeah, because we're gonna
It's
raise
considered.
the, right.
They call it a
You're-
tax increase even though the tax rate stays the same.
It is, I mean, citizens are paying more taxes, you know, that our rate is the same, but their value went up, so
Yeah.
they're paying more taxes.
Our some went down, I always say.
And that's all controlled by the state,
That's right.
not by us.
Tax assessor. People's went down. Well, depending on the valuation that you got for your property.
Or you have a veteran that goes from 75% disability to 100% disability.
Right. But the majority have probably, so,
Yeah.
because you're doing more.
So
That
what
should be
we've talked
the-
about in here today
That's adopting
is
tax
the
rate.
budget that's gonna be
The proposed.
proposed.
But it's not that it can't be changed.
Oh, August 21st. So y'all actually have on the calendar August 21st to adopt the budget.
I wouldn't do it that day, though. I'd wait until after the district judges have their salary hearing.
Right. We've never done it that early, Jimmy.
No,
So you
no, no.
potentially probably push it.
So we have time, we can, but this is, I mean, but you're right, it is a dynamic schedule. If you start missing 1 or 2 dates,
Right.
you're gonna miss 3 or 4, and you gotta have the publications and all of that out there in
Yeah,
time.
you need to make sure.
So the calendar needs to be refigured based upon the dates that y'all are wanting to adopt.
So what would you guys like Jesse to do? You have, what are the items I've asked you to figure out?
You asked me to get the cost of bringing the commissioners to the same salary as the majority of the other elected officials,
Okay,
treasurers.
stop there. So, commissioners, are we okay to have her put that in the preliminary budget? Take a look at that.
The proposed, you mean,
The one, yeah, what are we gonna call it?
because you're gonna propose.
The next round of,
Well, I guess when we came up to that, we were basing it, and it's all numbers, wherever you pull the numbers from. Now, that's why we set some higher than the others. It wasn't based on countywide or anything like that. It was based on averages that were pulled. And, I mean, what you can do with numbers to make them look whatever you want to look like is whatever it is. But that's the reason we set that at that.
Okay.
So, I mean.
but do you agree or disagree with the rationale that I was using?
Yours made sense. I guess as much sense as our numbers we pulled. But they were based on averages is when we did it with the others.
Okay.
But when was the last time you looked at an average?
Well, it depends. I guess there were some averages that were brought again, but they were pulling numbers from Montgomery County and Brazos County and pulling those in the numbers, which way heavily inflated.
I didn't put those in my.
Well, I don't know if I saw that, but I've
I
seen
didn't put
some
them in my
that had a
numbers.
pull from a lot higher counties.
And if they don't feel
They're
comfortable
nowhere close.
asking,
But no, I mean, I don't want to put it in there. I mean, if it's something.
he doesn't want his in there, I still would like to see mine calculated. I don't know. I'm just
I think-
asking for
I
me.
think-
Yeah.
I don't know what else to tell you.
I mean, I'm not in a position to ask for
That's
an
fine.
increase. It's just,
And like she said.
I'm gonna ask you to
yeah.
figure the numbers and put them in there so we can take a look to see what it does to the bottom line.
Mhm.
And then the next item, Jesse, was what?
Oh, the next, so put it in there, did y'all say yes?
I said, put those in there, please, so we can see what it looks like.
Okay.
Quick question for you. If we raise it to the 52,994, with the 2.5%, the other elected officials are going to 54,319.
Okay, so would
So
you,
you want it
would,
up to that?
all of it to the same, yeah.
Okay.
Because we've already made the determination that 2.5% is catch-up from what's already been spent.
Next item would be to put the full cost of the ADA in.
Okay?
Let's see.
Before you do that, commissioners, are we of the opinion that's a good idea or not a good idea?
I feel the ADA is.
I think I agree with it.
Okay, put it in, please.
HR director to the 48,016 cents.
Okay?
And then I need to know about the sheriffs. They talked to you about the medical employee and the 451 budget. They discussed the jail certificate pay, the postage in the jail, and the inmate transport in the jail. I need to know about those 4 items, whether or not to put them in.
All right, that's,
Sounded to me like they needed those.
all of those sounded reasonable.
So put them in.
Yes, please.
Okay, and then also the 2.5% COLA added to the other ones.
The other
One
two?
thing- Yes, the one thing that was said earlier is that if someone was hired within 90 days, they don't receive the COLA.
Right.
But that's not exactly how we've been budgeting, because it's basically if y'all approved a new position, then those people would not receive the COLA because it's a new position coming in. Someone could start in July, and what is that, yeah, in July, and their rate is, they would get the 2.5% COLA. If they're starting right now, then they would get the 2.5% COLA. Now, once you have the adopted budget out and whatever they change that, then obviously their rates are not gonna change, but the 90 days didn't make sense to me.
Well, last year we didn't do that. I mean, last year, if they just came on, they did not get a cost of living adjustment.
I
New
have a question.
positions, are you
What?
talking about new positions?
Not new position, new
New
employees, new hires.
They're going to, I've taken everyone's salary, what they were making at, I think back in April, and with a few adjustments. So what the salary was in April, I've taken those and I have entered those in for the next year's budget. So and there shouldn't be any changes to that for the most part. If there are people that we've hired in, like tax assessor, she just filled her part-time position. I have their previous rate in there right now for a 2.5%. But that person, she can't give them a raise right now. She can't, okay, so that person hired in at, let's just say $10 an hour, who was working there was making $12 an hour, but she hired them in at $10 an hour. $12 is budgeted because that was the time that I did it. But when they fill out their change of status forms, she can only give a 2.5% COLA on that, no matter what, on the $10.
I just remember last year, we didn't do new hires. Now, I don't know what time length we did it, but we didn't do it last year.
I have a question
I
about
have
the
the
new
new
EA salary. Is that 58,000 include the COLA, or will she get a COLA on top of that 50,000?
On whose?
It wasn't
new EA.
figured in.
The new EA. Oh,
I believe that was.
I didn't see
set.
2%
That was a
in
set.
your
I didn't
budget.
no, it's the stud amount. They haven't decided if they were giving her that effective this year. They know
Okay.
definitely that's what she's gonna be brought up. But the
Right.
amount has it's a little more than the 2.5% already.
So that was my question.
So he just had straight.
Just-
Yeah, y'all just said this is what it is.
The only two, you did get the changes with the maintenance and the judge's secretary with the 2% COLA,
It will be put back in.
2.5, put back
It
in.
was in originally. It will be put back in now.
Was that all? The changes we did?
Is that in policy that the new hires do not receive the COLA?
I don't know.
I don't know if it is, but I
Talking
think
about what we did last year.
if it's not, we can get it in, but it ought to be a payroll, it ought to be a practice that we establish within the county.
So you're just gonna go in, so you want us to go in and see whoever was hired, print out everyone and see who was newly hired within 90 days of October and not give them the increase? Is that what you're wanting? I don't quite understand that, but that's. So we need to verify everyone's hire date.
No, we don't. I can give you a list of who's been hired in the last year.
We just need who's been hired in the month of July, because they wouldn't qualify for
Right.
the increase.
Right.
Well, technically they do.
Isn't it? If you go with the 90 days.
Well, commissioners, does that sound reasonable or not? I'm not trying to complicate it, but it, you know, it doesn't, you don't bring somebody in when you hire them and you give them a 2.5% COLA because they haven't earned it.
Does it affect the grade structure?
No. It doesn't at this point, Commissioner?
Well, it will, because. you're
Eventually,
gonna
the tops will
increase-
get there. We'll have to take a look at that, but.
Yeah, you're gonna need to think about increasing.
Well, we did that last year. We moved everything
increased
to
it.
25%,
Yes.
which gave us a 5%, which,
It was 25%, yeah,
and we moved it 5% up to 25.
Yes.
So from the bottom to the top.
okay. So that covers this year and next year? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, plus two, you can bring somebody in at a level, they don't necessarily have to start at the bottom.
That's true.
You know, so when you hire somebody, it's at a rate that is comparable rate for when you bring them in, within, you know, within.
You hire a replacement, you pay them, and maybe you were paying them $14.50, but you hire them, well, I just complicated, never mind.
Yeah, if you got your scale of 13 to 18.
13 to
you can
15.50
hire
or
them
whatever.
14.50 or
Yeah.
whatever, and, you know, and then you give them a raise after 3 months. It just doesn't, it's not like you started them at the bottom and then.
Yeah, but it's not built in to give raises in 3 months.
Okay, so if you will make those additions, Jesse?
Yes.
Thank you,
And where
ma'am.
am I taking it from? The capital projects fund?
For now, yeah, because that's where the extra money was put.
I don't mean to throw a kink, but I was noticing the fairgrounds has a very significant reduction in the repairs and maintenance. Is
That
it your,
was because last year it was budgeted extra for painting and spoofing up the sign.
yeah,
And I know you had a wish list of priorities.
yeah, so there's, I mean, the well out there is,
Did he not get one of those groups to cover that?
he hasn't advised me if he has. I think he's working on some issues, so,
Yeah.
I mean, we may have to readdress that issue if it's not something that you want to put in right now, and that all the painting hasn't been done, obviously. I mean, those are some things that we're gonna have to keep in the back of our mind if in fact we're.
Okay.
Good there.
I guess we're good. I guess the next question is, how quickly for us to put anything together, we need to have at least 72-hour notice. I don't know what courtroom availability is. Wednesday, it should be available, but that doesn't help for Fridays. If the auditors have time, I'll come visit with y'all tomorrow, and we'll look at calendar and see what we can adjust and what have you to make sure we meet the proper deadlines and all.
And you filed or proposed, so you have the input of the commissioners court, and so you'll be able to see how much it's gonna cost
Right.
for all four or all of these adjustments, and you say yay or nay, and then we file it, and that doesn't mean it's final, it just means that this is what's on file, and at that point, after that point, then y'all can have as many meetings as y'all want,
Okay.
workshops or whatnot, to discuss what
Okay.
y'all feel like should be changed, so.
All right.
It's,
Sounds good.
What date are you wondering about court?
I'm just, next Wednesday, I'm just thinking.
The only thing that is showing on the calendar that I have is 506 jury trial in the district.
Okay, so this would be open. Because I've asked Sheree not to rebook this, save this for my courts.
I just
Yeah.
could help you out because I
Thank
have the
you.
calendar on my phone.
And with that, is there a motion to adjourn this workshop?
I make the motion we adjourn.
Second.
Let me find my agenda.
Okay, Commissioner Walker. Commissioner Mallett. Well, they're asking, is there discussion? Hearing, hearing none, what, is that a part of this?
No, this is
Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, this meeting is adjourned.